Hello, and welcome to HRBC show called Let's Talk. So, Chesapeake has like all sorts of amazing people that's running, trying to be y'all city council person. Well, today we have Miss Amanda Newins, and we're hoping to show you why she is the right choice. Welcome. Would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
Yes, thank you, Nina, and thank you to the Hampton Roads Black Caucus for having me on Let's Talk. I am so honored and proud to be one of the five endorsed by the Hampton Roads Black Caucus for Chesapeake City Council. So, a little bit about me: I grew up in Virginia Beach. I went right to work as fast as I could in the fast food industry in order to afford to attend college. I went to James Madison University, and that's where I started as a 911 dispatcher, working the night shift, and that's what really sparked my interest in public service. So, I had the privilege of serving the city of Chesapeake as a prosecutor for several years. Now I'm in the private sector as an attorney, practicing a variety of different areas of law, and I have the privilege of helping people in some of the most difficult conflicts of their lives. So, a little bit about me: I'm married to my husband, Brandon. He's a firefighter for the city of Chesapeake. We have no children. We have two fur children, Tucker and Charlie, our two dogs. But I am so honored to be on here today, Nina, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, I got a few questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, what made you want to be a council person?
So I wanted to run for city council, and I want to be on city council to better serve the community. So about a year and a half ago, I remember I was out in the community with one of our nonprofit organizations, Buffalo Family and Friends, and we were going door to door, knocking on the doors to folks who were in need of food and essential items, toiletries, basic services. And I remember seeing folks and the need they had and wanting to do more. And so I would go out every other Saturday with Buffalo Family and Friends, and I'd provide these services. But I felt like being out there every other day was just not enough. And then I saw some things that frustrated me throughout the community that I was seeing with our public safety not receiving adequate funding, and they now have. And I applaud City Council for providing them the funding for the public safety pay plan. So I saw a lot of frustrations, and I decided I wanted to serve the community in another capacity. And something about me is I'm always about service to others. And I've been doing that ever since I was in college as a 911 dispatcher, then as a prosecutor, so professionally and then both personally. So City Council would just be an opportunity for me to further my service to my community and empower the voices of folks in my community to meet and exceed their expectations.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So, what are your thoughts on healthcare services for the elderly? How can it be improved in Chesapeake?
So Chesapeake has some fantastic programs already for our aging population. I would love to see those programs expanded, and I would love to see some more partnerships between both our health department, our fire department, our nonprofits in the community. But the Chesapeake Fire Department has a mobile integrated healthcare program, which identifies people in the community who are high risk. So if you call 911 several times throughout the year, you would be flagged or identified as somebody who could be a candidate for this program. And the fire department provides preventative services. They provide equipment as needed to the general public, really to try to mitigate the need for 911 services and to provide them with the resources they need to prevent something from happening in the future. So I'd love to see that program expanded on. I'd love to provide the fire department more funding on city council so they can expand that program and include clinic-like services like, blood pressure checks, different vaccines or wellness checks that our elderly could really benefit from, and just expand those services and partner with our nonprofits. Also, something that's big for our aging population is transportation. So I'd love to see the city invest in or look into some ways we can help our aging population with their transportation to whether it be doctor's appointments, whether it be the emergency room or visits without utilizing our 911 services. Because what we have to look at is if we have an ambulance out of service, then that's someone else that is going to be waiting even longer for emergency services. So if we can bridge that gap between basic needs and helping our aging population with transportation and basic wellness services, that's going to help all of us in the community.
Okay. All right. So, the council voted to no longer offer curbside recycling to the Chesapeake residents. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
That's a hot topic, Nina. Everyone is talking about curbside recycling right now. I disagree with council's decision to end curbside recycling. I think recycling is a basic service that our city has been providing for, gosh, a number of years, and I was saddened to see it go. It's an important aspect of our environment, and it's important for the future of our city. And I'm really excited to be attending an event at 6 o'clock tonight on the state of the recycling in our city. And it's really an informational session where we can come together and hopefully find a solution in how we can reinstate curbside recycling. But on city council, I will advocate for reinstating our curbside recycling.
Okay. All right. So on your site, it says committed to Chesapeake, a safe place for our families. What do you think can be done to reduce gun violence in your communities?
Mm-hmm. So on a personal note, when I was 16, I worked at the local Burger King on Holland Road in Virginia Beach, and I was the victim of an armed robbery at the young age of 16. And it was life-changing for me. And that's what really made me want to go into public service and to go into the justice studies field and then become a lawyer, really. So I think it starts with partnering with our law enforcement and our public safety community. And we've got to provide our public safety personnel the resources they need to do that job that they were trained to do, and that's keeping us safe. So it's important that we provide competitive pay and resources for our public safety. It's also important that we provide them funding for the technology they need in order to do their job. So there's, innovative technology today, like Shot Spotter. The city of Virginia Beach utilizes it. And I'm sure it's expensive, and that's why the city of Chesapeake has not moved into utilizing that yet. But I'd like to see more funding for technology to be utilized in the community. And that specific technology can identify and notify our 911 system and our officers of a shot being fired in a certain amount of radius. And that way they can respond to it as soon as possible. Because I know all of us have heard what we think, well, maybe is that a gunshot? Is that a firework? Even if it was, like, I don't know where it came from. I don't know where, it sounded like it came from that way, but who knows? So, this technology is state of the art that could really help our community combat violence in our community. And at the end of the day, it's not just about having more officers. It's not just about having the best technology. It's really about partnering with our communities. So if we can provide and have qualified and trained law enforcement and public safety officers fully staffed across the board, then we can have long-term assignments in our community. And we have that in a lot of communities in Chesapeake, because our police department is fantastic at partnering with our communities and identifying that need. But if we can have long-term officer assignments and public safety assignments in our community, that really is going to promote partnerships and relationships and facilitating that community contact so we can work together. Because it all comes down to our community partnering with our public safety. That's the best way that we can combat violence together.
Okay. All right. Can you tell us some of the greatest problems that Chesapeake faces and how you would help to make them better?
So I really think of two big things that stand out. Right now, obviously, the cost of living is difficult for everyone with the inflation we're seeing across the board. And number two is our infrastructure. So on taxes and inflation, it's important that we keep our taxes low here in Chesapeake. And the best way we can do that is promoting business growth in the city of Chesapeake. If our businesses grow, that increases the amount of revenue that's coming into our city. And that means we as citizens are able to pay less taxes because our businesses and their success are making up for the amount of taxes we would need to pay. So I think it's important we keep our taxes low by promoting business growth. We provide opportunities for our businesses to grow. We have an incubation period for new businesses on a kickstart so they can get off to a head start and flourish and succeed in their business. But I think the best way to reduce taxes is, number one, ensuring we remember that whose money is being spent. And it's important that we go the furthest with the least amount of everyone's hard-earned money. So if there's an opportunity for a tax cut, meaning a tax lowering of the tax versus a credit, I'm going to take it and I'm going to advocate for reducing taxes versus a credit, because it's important we have our money now, and it's important we reduce it now versus just give me a credit in the long run. So number one, obviously taxes and inflation that we're all experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And then obviously number two, the infrastructure in our community. I think it's important that we're proactive and not reactive when we're looking at the infrastructure we see throughout the city. So many of us, and I'm probably about to experience it too on my way out to this event, is there's so much traffic throughout our city. And I think every city experiences it, but it's important that we're proactive and we look at and identify areas that could become and will become a problem, just looking at the growth of the different areas of our community, identify that before it becomes a problem and take care of that with studies and make a plan drawn out before we're sitting in traffic for hours and feeling like we're in the DC area when we live down here in Hampton Roads. Infrastructure is also important because it expands to our schools, it expands to our sidewalks, and I think it's important that we balance our infrastructure when it comes to our ever-growing city. So growth is obviously inevitable in our city. It's going to happen. I think every city is growing, but it's important that we balance and evaluate our infrastructure needs before we grow substantially throughout the city. So our big two issues, obviously taxes and then our infrastructure.
So as you were saying, Chesapeake is ever growing. So there are some people who have moved out to Chesapeake in y'all rural areas to raise their little chickens and whatnot. And now their little haven is being transformed into a subdivision where people are now complaining about their roosters crowing in the middle of the day or whatever. What are your thoughts on how to balance the two?
Yeah, so the city has a number of different overlays. So we have obviously the urban or suburban overlays in the Greenbrier, Great Bridge area, and then we have the rural or agricultural areas like southern Chesapeake. And there's different qualifications for different areas when it comes to growth. But I think it's important when we look at southern Chesapeake and the agricultural land, it's important that we preserve our agricultural land. And I'd like to see our open space agricultural preservation program, the OSAP program, I'd like to see that expanded on in the city of Chesapeake. So that program, it gives farmers an opportunity to continue being farmers even if there's economic hardship. So it's the city basically would buy their land from them and lease it back to them so they can afford to still maintain it and farm their land. And the city gets the benefit of, obviously they own the land, but it remains agricultural in our city. And I think it all comes down to, like I was saying before, a balancing act, looking at the needs of our city, what works in some area of our cities and what doesn't. So, high density housing, that may not work in southern Chesapeake, but it may work in Greenbrier. So Greenbrier is obviously an ever growing business area and business district. High density housing could work in down Greenbrier, but we have to accept and understand that what works in Greenbrier is not always going to work in southern Chesapeake. So it is important that we preserve our agricultural land. And I think by redeveloping or enhancing the OSAP, the Open Space and Agricultural Program, that we can accomplish that.
Okay. So there are some bridges that some people feel that are unsafe to cross. What are your thoughts on how to get those repaired?
So it's funny because Nina, you and I were just talking about the tunnels and how we feel sometimes we're holding our breath when big trucks drive beside us. So I think a lot of our bridges now they're physically safe. I know in South Norfolk, we had a bridge on 21st Street that physically was not safe, and the city has addressed that. But the number one bridge that comes to mind is obviously the Deep Creek Bridge. And I know personally, every time I'm driving over it, I'm holding my breath, hoping that the car on the other side is staying within their lines and doesn't come over the line. And I know my husband is a firefighter over there in Deep Creek, and he tells me when they go over that bridge, I know they're holding their breath too, because they are right in that line. So I don't know that our bridges are inherently unsafe. They're certainly well overdue for a facelift. That bridge, I think it's been, longer than I've been alive, that bridge has been needing to be upgraded. And I'm glad to see that the Army Corps of Engineers is taking bids and they're reevaluating those bids. And hopefully, I know we've all been saying it, hopefully it happens soon. And I'm praying for it too, that bridge is renovated and upgraded. But I think as a city council, we can work together with the federal government the best we can. I'm sure we all know how difficult it can be on a federal level with things moving so slowly. But I think it's best that the city partners with the federal government and that we're communicating with the federal government, making them aware of the needs of our city and making them aware of the severity of the needs of that bridge, because it has been a long time coming and just a disaster waiting to happen with the amount of traffic going through that area. So I think that's the best way we can work on addressing some of those bridges and concerns, is keeping a line of communication and making sure that we're keeping the federal government up to date, keeping the pressure on, making sure they know, don't forget about us down here in Chesapeake. This bridge needs to be updated.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on economic development in the African-American community?
So economic development is important across the board, but I think what's important is that our SWAM program, so our Small Woman and Minority Business Program, I'd love to see that program developed. because I think a lot of women, I think minorities are underserved in our businesses as business owners. And I'd like to see us cut some of the red tape that a lot of our businesses are experiencing, especially small women and minority owned businesses. I'd love to see our city offer some type of mentorship program where current business owners can partner with new and upcoming businesses and help and teach our rising business leaders and stars in our community how they got to where they are today, and really just kind of connect the dots for our businesses. So I know there's really two facets to the question. The one is the business owners and the minority communities, and the other is bringing diverse businesses into our minority communities. And I couldn't agree more that it's so important that we need to attract businesses and diverse businesses, not just, we need another tire shop, or we need another business that we have so many of them, and nothing against those businesses personally, but it's important that we partner with our economic development and our business leaders to see how we can bring those businesses into the city of Chesapeake. But I agree that we need to bring more businesses and more diverse types of businesses specifically into our minority communities in the city of Chesapeake. And I'd partner with our economic development to get that done.
Okay. All right. My last question. What are your top 3 goals that you hope to accomplish if elected?
Yeah, so number one, I've touched on a little bit, is making sure we have a safe and secure city. So it really all starts with the safety of our community. It really starts with ensuring that we're all safe in all aspects of life. So ensuring we have a strong and competitive public safety in our community, and it starts with competitive pay and providing them with the resources they need. Next, we need to promote business growth, and I talked about that a little bit, how I would appreciate, or I would promote a incubation period for our businesses. So new businesses coming on, maybe you get a tax break, or maybe you get a 101 class, or you get an application fee reduced. So when you're joining as a new business, things are a little bit easier on you, because I'm sure I'm not a business owner. I work for a small business, and I can only understand the hardships that our business owners and our entrepreneurs go through in trying to become a business in the city of Chesapeake. So by providing an incubation period, by providing a mentorship program, we can better facilitate and play in the success of our businesses. And then lastly, it comes down to enhancing our quality of life in the city of Chesapeake. And that's in so many different ways. It includes making sure every student in the city of Chesapeake has a quality of education, no matter what zip code you're in. And that goes to funding our school board appropriately, so they can ensure that every child in the city of Chesapeake has access to quality education, no matter what part of the city you live in. It ensures infrastructure being in place. We talked about that a little bit. Something that's so important that I think we all experience on a day-to-day life is our sidewalks. And it sounds quite silly, but just by building and enhancing our sidewalks throughout the community, it really opens up a gateway or a pathway to social and economic growth. So it enhances the accessibility to our businesses, and enhances the social aspect in our communities. So just by doing something so simple, like providing better sidewalks throughout the community, or just connecting our community more, it enhances our community more overall. So my 3 big: safe and secure city, promote business growth, and then enhancing our quality of life. Obviously, our quality of life also comes down to keeping our taxes low, because if we're overburdened so much that we can't live in the city of Chesapeake, we've got a problem. So those would be my top 3.
Okay. Well, those are all the questions that I have, and I don't see any social media questions. But if y'all have any, feel free to ask. But that's all I got. Do you have anything else you would like to tell the people?
I don't know that I do. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate those who have listened and have rewatched. And I'd obviously be honored to have your vote and your confidence for City Council. Early voting has started, and we have several satellite locations open throughout the city that you can early vote Monday through Friday, and even Saturday, starting this Saturday and the following Saturday. And then obviously on Election Day on November 8th. I bring a great deal of experience and passion to public service. I'm a new face, and I'm ready to serve the city of Chesapeake. So I ask everyone for their vote and their confidence in me as our next city councilwoman.
Do you know what number you are on the ballot?
I don't know what number I am.
Okay.
I should know, though. But you'll find me, Amanda L. Newins. Can't miss me. Right in the middle.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Nina. I appreciate it.